Solomon Grundy, born, built, assembled on a Monday? Well, I guess in this case, built on whatever day it is, where and when you're watching this. But how did DC's larger-than-life villain slash anti-hero zombie man come to be assembled at all? Well, it all comes down to Arkham City, the 2011 sequel to the groundbreaking 2009 Batman Arkham Asylum video game that changed the world of Batman, DC, and superhero games as a whole. In Arkham City, players found themselves able to essentially free roam throughout a vast section of Gotham City, embarking in scrap fights with goons, mini-stories to stop larger villains, even solving riddles all over town, all towards a massive overarching storyline that within it finds Batman captured by the Joker, infected with the Joker's blood and subsequent deadly disease in effort to force the Caped Crusader to find the cure. In the search, the world's greatest detective finds himself constantly facing issues with Penguin, Ra's al Ghul, you decide how to pronounce it, and none other than Solomon Grundy. Throughout the whole tale, Batman and Catwoman naturally cross paths several times, including each saving the other, enough for us all to say, oh, just marry each other already. What, too soon? All of this adventure and legendary gaming, of course, got the attention of McFarlane Toys and has resulted in a well-made group of classic characters. Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, aka JK of JK Collects, and I'll be posting a new video each week, if not more. If that sounds of interest to you, please click that like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the future episodes. In this episode, we are taking a closer look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Batman Arkham City Build-A-Figure wave of Batman, Catwoman, Ra's al Ghul, Penguin, and Solomon Grundy. Okay, welcome back everyone, and here is our group of 4/5, our Catwoman, our Batman, our Ra's al Ghul, and our Penguin. Now, you might be looking at the way I've stacked these just to make them fit in frame, and you might be asking, hey, why is Catwoman in front of Batman? And I say, hey, why not ladies first? And then subsequently, why is there no issue with Penguin being in the back? Right? Oh, because it's Penguin, right? I'm just kidding. Okay, so this is them. Let's break into them. What do you say? So I'm going to move these three out of the way, and we're going to start with old Catwoman, right? Because she is in the front. So let's start with her and look at this. All right, so our typical expectations for a McFarlane toy, right? Oh, but if we look around the back, we don't have Catwoman art. We have some very small version of it, which shows us that card, but we've got old Solomon Grundy, right? Because we're building him, and it shows the piece that comes with it, right? So we've got his torso. Pretty good start for building a anti-hero zombie man, right? Okay. On the side, Catwoman, Arkham City. That's for our Batman Arkham City line. On this side, that usual window with Catwoman to kind of help, you know, when you're in the stores, you can see very quickly and see who it is on either side, which is very helpful. And then there in the front, that oh so familiar version of Catwoman. And then there's our collect-to-build Solomon Grundy. Okay. Enough with that. Let's take a peek at old Batman. So we're just going to burn through all those, and then we'll open them up and see what we've got. So okay, Batman. On the back, same thing, right? Solomon Grundy. On the side, Batman, Batman Arkham City, and then over here, Batman with the window. And then we do a nice little rotation there, and then we've got old Grundy's feet and legs, right? And we've got a little accessory in there for Batman. Okay, looking forward to tearing into these two so far. Let's grab old Ra's al Ghul, and I've decided on Ra's because I'm a Batman animated series person, and that's how they pronounce it in there, so I'm a big fan of that. But over on the back, yet again, Solomon Grundy, nothing changed. Ra's al Ghul, Arkham City, and this side window. And we've got old Grundy's arms coming through there. Look at those chains on there, nice and rusted, looking good. Okay. And last but not least, the Penguin. That's right. Yeah, the one we were looking forward to, right? Everybody's expecting the Penguin. Okay, there it is. Our Grundy with our pieces. Penguin, Batman, Arkham City on the side and that side window. And we will get right back to him. Like we've got Grundy's head. And oh, look, Grundy's his little vest. That's so sweet. All right, let's get back to Catwoman, right? So ladies first, let's clear some of this dust off of here, and let's set the cat free, right? Cats don't like to be caged, they like to be free, so let's let her out. and that Grundy piece. Okay, so typical presentation of a McFarlane figure, right? We've got that blue background with the comic book covers on there, so I'm going to pull this out of the way real quick. There's our background. There's our DC stand for the DC multiverse, and then there's our Catwoman Batman Arkham City collector's card. So again, always happy that they include that in there. Just that little extra thing to build a collection with. And there's our lady, right? There's old Catwoman. Let's start with pulling this whip out. Let's see how easy it is, right? So it's just taped in, which I appreciate. Woven throughout this plastic inlay. Let's get Grundy out. He doesn't look like he's strapped in there too much. We are going to put Grundy's parts to the side because we are going to build him later on once we've got everything loose. And ooh, that is a very close call right there with old Catwoman. So let's be very delicate with the blade, and let's pull it out. Let's see if we can get her to come out with a little bit of leverage, a little bit of pulling. She does have an arm tied in back there, so be careful with that one. We're just going to see what happens if we keep pulling, huh? There we go, and of course, sorry for the noise, as always. Feet were tied in, but a little bit of leverage, and we got it out. And the good thing is should something happen, those joints are usually pretty forgiving for pulling it out, but I do that quickly for the sake of not taking up too much of your time. I do recommend taking your time and cutting those things, whether you're doing it from behind or in front in the package. Be very careful with it because she has very small ones. But there she is. There's our Catwoman, right? Let me straighten those feet out. So first impressions, pretty good looking figure, right? This waist, it seems very high. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there. I don't understand why that is the case. It looks very odd, a little bit off-putting, right? I feel like it should have been a little bit lower, right? Have it go a little bit longer just to kind of show that sleekness. This just kind of looks like she's wearing some waders or something. Anyway, let's start from the top and work our way down as usual. There's our head, right? It's got the goggles up high. They are fixed in place, so they do not pull down. That would have been a really cool feature to see. But you know what? That's okay. I won't ask for too much. I just ask for some good quality. And here we go. We do have some pretty good quality because we have that head separate from the fixed neck. So the neck is part of the entire torso. But we do have good movement, right? Side to side, looking around, looking up, looking down. Good for a cat. And look at that, we've got full exorcist rotation. Let's do it again just for good measure. Boom. She does have this collar, but it's kind of a rubbery material, so it doesn't get in the way and doesn't really cause any kind of threat to make me feel like I'm going to mess anything up. Paint apps on the face. Looking pretty good all in all. It'd be good if I didn't bump the camera, huh? But yeah, the paint apps on the face. Let me see if we can dim these lights a little bit. Looking good. There's a little bit of blush on there. You would almost attribute it to some photorealism because they did a fantastic job. And she's looking a little bit more, right? So straightforward. So we don't have that looking off to the side. She's ready to just stare into your soul and judge you and then rob you because she's Catwoman. But then here we've got the little choker with what looks like the little padlock on there, right? So kind of cool little extra detail. And the padlock looks like it is, it doesn't move, but it is separate. So it's not just painted on there. The choker itself is painted on, but the little lock is separate from it. So that's kind of neat. Shoulder, looking good, right? So we've got just a kind of a normal shoulder joint in there, kind of good for the up and down. We do have a full rotation on it. Not really a butterfly joint. We do have, it looks like we should have a little bit of tricep, upper bicep rotation right there. That peg kind of moves. Double elbows, so happy for that, right? That's good for that cat flexibility. So look at that. Yeah, she's ready to just do whatever, right? Because she's very flexible and she can handle all those cat poses. Good wrist rotation, a little bit of movement up and down, right? So the wrist will move around pretty well. Same thing on both sides, right? Double elbows, same shoulders, and the wrist does have that same mobility. So we got a good rotation, we've got a good wiggle around is the best way I can describe it, right? So it does move around very well. Down here we've got right here that torso movement. We have a waist rotation. The torso movement's very good, right? That's good for that flexibility, the cat movements. Again, back to this. I just not thrilled about that. It really does look like she's wearing some waders. The legs, great flexibility there, right? So we've got we'll say full-on cat split, right? So that's good. Doesn't really do the drop-down thing, but that's not interfering because this this upper diaper is a rubbery material, so that moves pretty well. Double knee, so that's great. No hip swivel, no calf swivel, but we do have good flexibility in the foot, right? So it's got an interesting ankle thing going on here. So it actually bends a little bit higher up, and then we've got the rotation here. It's kind of interesting. Look at that massive peg. And then it looks like we might have very slight toe articulation. Look at that tiniest little toe articulation, but it's there. Thanks for that detail there, McFarlane Toys. You didn't let go just because it was a very small figure. Paint, again, on the face, I'm gonna go with fantastic. They did a great job. I do not see anything immediately standing out on that. I love the ears, that they're not identical, right? This one's kind of drooping down a little bit because it would, right? They're not going to be identical. This thing's been through heck, seen some wear and tear. It's been in battles. It's going to be a little roughed up. I like the rubbery collar, the zipper, well painted, right? It looks very good. I don't really see any issues of it standing out so far. It does break right there, but there's not much you can do about that. And then the texture of the costume itself, looking very good. All in all, pretty good. I can almost see past the diaper just from the other quality. I look forward to seeing what kind of poses she'll get into. Now, I have seen other videos where there's been a little focus on the back of Catwoman, we'll say, right? Obviously, she's very fit, is what we'll say. I'm just going to leave it at that. The paint, not really any necessary paint on the back because she is in a black costume. Lots of great textures all throughout. We've got kind of like a honeycomb feature to the costume. And, you know, it looks very, very solid, very ready for battle and fun and jumping off of buildings and climbing random things. Okay, I didn't really focus on the whip before. Normally I start with accessories, so let's bring that in real quick. I was too distracted with moving Grundy to the side. There's our whip. Nothing wired. It's, again, just kind of some flexible plastic. So, you know, with a whip like this, it would be great to see a wire included in there, because think about the cool whip action poses you could do with that. So just throwing that out there for consideration. Hey, you know, if there's a way to incorporate a wire into a whip without it being too difficult, think about it. McFarlane Toys, if you happen to ever see this, which you may very well not. And here's our Grundy torso. Obviously, we're going to take a little closer look when we're putting him together or when we have him together. But all in all, detail looking good, right? So what we've come to expect from ultimately a mega figure is what we're building here, right? So good detail that we expect from McFarlane Toys. Let me get my hand out of there because I'm messing up the focus. Lots of texture on his back just to kind of show that you'd almost say rock-like zombie creature that he's made out to be. And let me just say, like, the pants, they're a flexible rubbery material, but I don't know if can you look at the texture of this, right? It looks like it is a fabric almost, but it is just a rubbery material. But that is very, very impressive what they've done with that. It really does almost feel and flex like it is a fabric. So I look forward to putting them together. All right, torso to the side. I've taken enough time on that one. Let's pop in to the Batman, right? Okay, so we already did a little tour around the box. Very similar to all the other ones. They didn't really change much. Let's pull them out and see what we've got here. It's a good looking Batman figure from the outside, right? Those Arkham games, they did a fantastic job of designing all these characters. I mean, the iconic looks at them. Move them out of the way. There's our typical background. There's our stand. And that's the card that we get with it, right? So a shot straight from the game. Batman looking down on a city, or being remorseful. Who knows? Maybe he's sad about something. All right, let's bring this back in. And we've got Grundy's legs tied down with these little elastics. Let's see if we can get it from this direction. So I just don't want to cause too much havoc. I'm just kind of showing that it is possible. So we pop those. Pull a couple of these Batman, because if you pull them just enough, they're just fairly slack, because they kind of have that elasticity to them. So they will pull just a little bit, and sometimes enough where you can cut them and then pull these legs that we're putting to the side for now right on out. Let's pull out the good old grapple gun. Pull that out, and let's get old Bats out. I think we cut a pretty good bit, so we can bring him right on out. We got one arm piece, kind of holding him in. I don't want to stress myself and the world out. Let's chop that one too. I just feel like I would be playing with fire if I didn't do that. I was really wanting to hold him in because that one was a double. All right. Let's keep on pulling. All right. Sorry for the noise, as usual. Could have sworn I got all the ones around that area, but I did not. Thank you, tension, and we just cut the tension with a knife and scoop Batman out of there. So there we go. One thing to always be mindful of is, right, a lot of times they'll tuck the cape through there, so that's yet another little hurdle, which is good, right? It protects the cape, it keeps it from getting too squished or melted in the plastic and helps maintain the integrity of it. But there we go. He's out, he's free. We'll start with the old grapple gun here. Maybe my focus will work with me here. Just a basic grapple gun, right? No extra detail as far as paint apps. The actual detail on it, pretty good, right? Because it's a Batman grapple gun, and it's what I would expect from it. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of paint detail on there, just to kind of draw out. I mean, if you're taking all this time to sculpt and mold something as well done as this, especially in such a size, add a little bit of paint apps. Let your work and your detail shine through, right? Granted, I do understand that does add money to production, and when you add money to production, it adds money to the cost of the figure itself. But you know, some of these things, some of that money we save on repaints. But this one is not a repaint. This one is a great looking figure, just as first impressions, right? I mean, it's just a very clean Batman, nothing over the top. Almost like they dialed down some of the excess size that he was given in the game and kind of perfected it. I was always a fan of the way this costume was done. Okay, we'll get to that. We'll start with the head, right? So separate from the neck. Glad to see that neck is fixed, attached to the torso. So we're just dealing with that ball joint up there. But as you can see, we're already there. Boom, we have exorcist capability. We've got good side to side, up and down. So he can watch the city very well with his whited out evil Batman eyes. So he is just ready for that. Okay, I do love the really tall ears. It kind of harkens back to the old school Batman. There's just something about it. It's just, I'm always a big fan when I see that. Now there's a lot of great Batman looks, of course, but that's just one that I always enjoy. The simple Batman logo on the chest, fairly simple, and black just across there. Needless to say, it's a good one. Okay, now let's see. We've got the cape coming around the shoulders, right? So rubber material. Goes up there. Let's see how it interferes, if it does, with flexibility. So we got a butterfly joint to kind of help give us a little bit of extra there. So he can reach up pretty high. Pretty impressed by that, especially with the rubber cape getting in the way. So he's able to get those arms up fairly high, considering what we're working with. Bicep swivel right there up at the top along this edge of the bicep and the tricep. Single elbow, right? Pinned. No big deal there. We're not really, McFarlane hasn't really been discussing a lot of the pinless stuff so much. I don't really see, or I'm not able to easily get any wrist rotation there, so I think we're kind of dealing with a fixed wrist on that, or forearm, I should say. Wrist rotation looks pretty good, right? And then we've got some up and down mobility on it. So it does the good old wiggle around. So I'm always happy to see that. That's good for wrist. Same mobility over here. Wrist, we've got the swivel, and do we have the move around? Yes, it will wiggle around, so I'm definitely happy to see that. A little bit of a pop of it breaking free, but not breaking, and that's what matters. These rubber, so that's good, right? They're not going to break off. They're not going to be these really sharp points that can end up being dangerous, so that's good. Up here at the torso, good rotation and movement there. Hip rotation, so good for posing. We've got the belt, which is attached to the exterior underwear, right? So this is one rubbery piece. So if the belt moves, the bottoms also move with it. So there we go. Legs, same old hinge we're used to with McFarlane toys, but gives us the ability of having the good old-fashioned. That's right, we're bringing the bat split back. It's back. Doesn't do the drop down and pull out, but has that look to it. No thigh rotation, double knee, so good for that flexibility. Great, as you would expect from a good old ninja. No calf rotation. The foot has pretty good mobility right there, up and down. And then we've got some good rotation on it. And then, oh, you guessed it, toe articulation. Of course, he's got to be able to pose. But yeah, again, I mean, I love the way this armor is, his costume, right? Because it looks like it's armor. It looks like it's riveted together. And they pulled that through very well. And they pulled through a lot of the textures, which did not require a lot of paint, which is good because it's less likely for paint apps to get messed up. Now, that being said, let's take a little bit of a closer look at the head. Kind of an inconsistency in shading in the cowl here. Now, it's like a rubbery material for the head. In the face, the painting, it's decent, but I wouldn't say it's quite as clean as Catwoman's was. You can see some of it bleeds over on what would be the edge of the cowl. And the eyes look like they maybe a little bit was missed. Because you can see there's a shape for the eye, but the white does not quite fill it all the way up. But hey, maybe they did it because that shape would have been too wide open, and this just looks more menacing. The bat, there's a little bit of, again, inconsistency in the black across there. You can kind of see it. It's like kind of fades out a little bit. On the belt, just a solid goldish yellow. Some, not quite perfectly clean lines. No extra detail to it, right? So they just painted yellow, or the goldish yellow on there. Nothing to kind of highlight the clasp. And I get it. A lot of times that's just how Batman stuff is. It's just yellow. But, a little bit of extra detail never hurts. And we got a little bit of bleed over of yellow down there onto the bottoms. And the rest of it, no real paint apps to be said, right? We got plastic. We've got rubbery plastic, and it's all just the color that it's supposed to be is what it was cast in. Cape, rubbery material, moves around pretty well. We lift it up. Back, same thing, right? We just really needed paint on the belt, and that's what we got, but no extra detail on it. I do like the depth of the lines on this because it highlights pretty well, and it almost seems like maybe a darker gray or a black in there, like what is it, a Gundam marker to kind of highlight those lines. I don't know. I'm very curious of what that might look like. Anyway, moving on, let's take a look at our Grundy pieces, right? So we saw those pants with that fabric-like material, and they were able to keep, or the texture, they were able to keep that texture with the legs. Come on, focus. I need you to catch up with me. So they were able to keep that texture with the legs. My focus is not wanting to cooperate. Let's just set that leg there and let it catch up. Okay. Okay, well, you know what? Maybe the focus will eventually catch up. Maybe if I hit the camera like I just did. Anyway, on the leg here, we've got that same texture that we saw on the back. And you can see like the pants, the knee, a little bit is missing. And they have it where it does look like it kind of raises off, even though it is still technically part of it. So that's kind of cool to see. All in all, a lot of little extra features. But we'll look a little bit closer when it comes time to actually building Mr. Grundy here. And I do apologize for the focus on that. If you're still here, thanks for sticking with me. I wouldn't have blamed you for dropping off there with the focus kind of failing us heavily. But let's see what we got here. Let's move on to old Ra's al Ghul, right? Oh, look, now focus wants to work with us. Okay. All right, we'll take a look at old Grundy's legs here in just a little bit. Let's get Ra's out and dig through him. Okay, so we'll move that box out of the way. We've already taken a look at that. Same background, nice blue. There's our stand, and there is our Ra's al Ghul, a little shot from the game right there, looking pretty good. Okay, thanks for that card, Todd and crew. And there we have it. Let's see about busting these guys out. Tell you what, let's bust Ra's out first. Let's make sure I get those so we don't get held back by it again. Get these leg ones. Pop that one. Let's get this arm one. There we go. Another arm one. We definitely do secure these in here so that they do not move in transit, which is always kind of, it makes me giggle a little bit sometimes. I don't know if you've seen it, but in stores, sometimes I'll be on the shelf and a head has popped off, right? And it's just kind of hanging out down in the bottom of the package or just kind of floating. It just makes me giggle a little bit and see it. Because you know it's going to go back on with no problem, but it's just kind of funny. It's like, oh, he's lost his head after all that securing in there. Let's get that out. Now let's pull Raish right on out. There we go. More plastic crackling. Thank you for your patience with the sound. Let's move that out of the way. And there's the sword, right? Looking pretty good. Not a nice gold handle. Got the writing on there on the blade. If anybody knows what that writing means, please let me know. Kind of difficult to see. Let me see if we can dim the lights a little bit more to maybe get a clearer image. Or if you've seen that, there we go. Yeah, if you can tell me what that writing means, put it in the comments, right? Because, hey, I'm always here to learn. Look at that handle. Look at the detail. Looking good, right? I mean, it's just a gold handle. You don't really have to do a lot extra with it, but there's a lot of detail in there that just kind of comes out with that gold. So wonderful on that. Let's bring some lights back up. Let's bring old Ghoulie in here, right? Okay, so here's our guy. First impressions, again, looking pretty good. I love the tattoo apps on there, and the paint is just looking good. Let's dig into this head. The paint on the face, solid, right? The red around the eyes, looking very evil, menacing, deadly. The hair paint and app looks pretty good. There's not really much on the black, but we've got the little gray sideburns going on there. Good. We got full exorcist rotation, side to side, forward and backwards. Good movement on that, separate from the neck. Neck is part of the torso. This is all one piece. This shoulder is attached to the torso as well. Shoulder flexibility, not a butterfly joint. We're just dealing with that standard one, but still pretty good. You can still move that arm around very well. I have a bicep, tricep rotation right there. Looks like we got double elbow going on. Yep, if I can break that other one free. There we go, double elbow. They do have pins, no big deal. Do we have wrist rotation or forearm? No forearm rotation, but we do have wrist and hand rotation, right? And we do have, looks like a wiggle capability. Yep, we do have the ability for that hand and wrist to wiggle around. And let's say same thing on both sides. Yep, you can see the little pin right there. So it is ready to move around. Same thing. Again, those tattoos are looking fantastic. The paint apps on this guy, they nailed it, because that's a lot of detail. And for them to get that detail right on an arm with all the different shapes that the muscles create, well done. And then the gold paint apps on there. But I digress. This piece, this armor that he's wearing, does prevent, it feels like there is a torso movement and there's definitely a hip swivel, but the torso movement is kind of restricted by that rubbery piece that is part of the torso, does not come off, but we do have that capability. And the legs, same old joint that we're used to for the split. Double knee, right? So double knee for flexibility. I like the way this is sunken in, because it gives the thumb a little bit of ability to grip it and pull and break that knee free. So yeah, great flexibility there. Same thing with the foot that we're used to, right? We've got that higher ankle joint for rotation and movement, and then we've got a good shift, and there's our toe articulation. Same thing on both sides. But like I said, paint apps to create texture in there, right? So we got a little bit of a darker green going on there in the pants with a lighter green. The pins took on that darker green color, which is very interesting, almost like they were either painted or cast that way. A little bit of dark green on the back here, which is good to see, right? Because it's around the back, but it does tie to the front, and that's usually where we see that happen. The gold came through very cleanly. Not really any major issues standing out, especially up here in this design. That would be one that it seems like it could easily be missed or messed up, and I don't see anything horribly standing out. And just a little stuff, a little bit right there, right? On the back. But hey, good to see that it is on the back to begin with, so I can't really complain. And wrapping around the back, these little metal clasp pieces are also done. So all in all, well-made figure. Happy to see that. Some detail on these ropes, or this rope type material, could have been added, but hey, who am I to be picky, right? Look at all these other things that they nailed it with. If this is the stuff that I can complain about, tiny little details, then hey, I would call it a win. So there's our guy. That's our Ra's al Ghul. All right, okay. Stands on his own. I forgot to test that with old Batman, but we will see that shortly with our usual 360 views. And here are our Grundy pieces. And look at that, focus is still wanting to work with me fairly well. So there we go. Those are our arms that we saw before with the rusty chains, rusty shackles. Already see we're dealing with a single elbow on that one. So looking forward to put it together. I like the separation of the pieces, the green that's showing with the stitches. It would have been cool to see the stitches be a little bit different color to stand out. But I do love that separation in the green filling in the little void that will be between the pieces where he was sewn together. Old Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday. Okay, let's set those aside and move on to the next. And the next also happens to be the last, the Penguin. Did I save the best for last? I don't know. I'll let you decide. I'll say that I saved the Penguin for last, right? Nothing against old Ozzy, Mr. Cobblepot himself, but let's get him out there. Yeah, let's see what we got. Same old box. We took a good look at that. Let's pull this stuff out. Well, this is definitely a long video. It certainly adds up when we're going through multiple characters at once, and there's a lot of detail. So there we go. Same background. There's our stand. There's our shot from the game to give us our old Oswald Cobblepot Penguin muggin. Okay. Set that to the side, and this is what we're dealing with. All right, let's break it free. What do you say? The old wrestle. Let's see if we can pull any of these. Not really, but I can do that one that's got Grundy pieces, so he is free. And I bet I can get Penguin's legs, so I can at least get those from behind. This one might be a good little pull tab. Yep. See, these are kind of sunken in, so they're a little difficult to get to. I can get that one. I appreciate the elasticity and stretchiness of these. It does make it easier. Let me see if I can just at least weaken it. Okay. So there we go. Let's see what we can pull out here. You know what? There we go. It does give me some stretch there, so I can do that without any risk of damaging the Penguin. And hey, I'm just, again, noise, I'm going to set him to the side. But I'm just going to throw it out there, right? I noticed that old Oswald Cobblepot has a nice little hat on there. Almost looks like a magician's hat. And, you know, there's another character out there that I keep lobbying for that needs a magician's hat. And, you know, her name may or may not be Zatanna. Zatanna Zatara. So, again, Todd Toys, McFarlane Toys. I apologize for the old name. If you're listening, let's think about a Zatanna figure if you're not already working on it. But back to the topic at hand. Here is our Penguin umbrella. A little bit bent, but that's okay. I mean, it's plastic, right? Apply a little bit of heat, restores back to shape. It's got the little penguin top on it, all right? It's all made out of gold. So, you know, not too much that you can do when you want to just have the pieces made out of gold. You want them to be gold. A little bit of casting flash kind of shows through there. I don't know if you can see that in the detail, but you know, if that's the worst thing I can point out, then I think we're doing pretty well. Because I love the individual lines to show this umbrella is wrapped and tied up. You see that? I mean, that's great. That's just extra little detail that wasn't necessary. Would have been cool to see a little button right there or something, right, for the fastener. If you got a nice one like this, it's probably not Velcro. It probably has a button. Could have thrown it in there. All right, let's check out Ozzy. Do I have high expectations for flexibility? Let's see if we can be wowed. Okay, let's start with the head. Look at the. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, it's not the best look, right? But it's a great job. I mean, they did a very good job of showing just the grotesqueness of the penguin, right? Very off-putting, but very well done. I mean, look at the detail, the red around what's going on his eye there. I mean, it looks painful. It makes me glad that I'm not dealing with that. Got him looking straight forward. The detail on the actual eye, you know, in the camera looks a little bit better. I can almost see the little bit of a dot on it. But from my perspective, it kind of all blurs together. Teeth, we've got kind of a blue hint in the mouth, which kind of harkens back to good old Batman Returns, right? The Danny DeVito version. Eating the fish and having that very weird saliva. Okay, so head. Again, oh, look at that hat. Oh, and it's rubbery, so it looks like it's something that could easily be molded separately, but I digress. Mobility of the head separate from the neck. Neck is part of the torso, all right? Okay, and we've got good side to side, up and down. Oh, we could do Exorcist. Yep, look at that. With the, oh, I pushed it too far. See, that's why we can't do that. But then that's where we can see what that joint looks like. So, hey, we'll call that a lose-win, right? Because it went right back on. I love the texture of this material that's on the coat, right? That's supposed to be fur. But it looks like it's slightly dingy fur, you know, which you might expect from Oswald. He's like a faux fancy guy. But this coat, definitely all part of it, not coming off. It is part of this whole overlay piece. Hard to tell what's underneath, right? But this whole thing is a rubbery type overlay that goes. But it's again a nice texture. The entire coat, a solid texture. I do appreciate McFarlane toys and their textures. I'll tell you, their detail. There's our shoulder. Not a butterfly joint from what I can tell. We do have good rotation on that so we can get around. We've got bicep / tricep rotation there. Double elbow on that, so good for his penguin flexibility. He can salute whoever he may or may not ever salute. I don't know why he would. Nothing in the forearm swivel, but we do have pretty good wrist swivel, and yep, we've got the ability for the hand to wiggle around, right? I like the bandage on there. Look at the detail on that. Just all those tiny little lines sculpted in there, right? Fantastic. And he coordinated with his little under thing there. Can't think of what it's called, but it'll come to me. But same thing on the other side with this one, right? The bare hand, but it does have the ability to wiggle and rotate around. Front looking good, right? The texture of the shirt, this sweater that he has underneath, looking good on that. Underneath the pants, pretty plain, right? Just the cast material that they are. This is a rubber material right here at the top. The legs are a plastic. Decent job of matching the shades of blue on that, right? Nothing really stands out. It's a very navy blue. Flexibility obviously is going to be very poor because of the rubber coat and also just the way that he is made. But yeah, this coat is definitely getting in the way and interfering of any kind of, that's the penguin split right there, as good as it gets, okay? But hey, penguins aren't really that flexible to begin with. Knee, it's a single joint on that with the pins in there. The foot barely has any mobility because of this solid pant leg that's very large, like a wide leg pant he's got going on there. But the intent of the forward and back and then the rock is there. It's just he has a lot of hindrance based on his costume. So yeah, I mean, detail, good. It's a good looking representation of this penguin is what I'll say. Can't say it's a good looking dude, but you know, to each their own. And then lastly, but not least, of course, our last Grundy pieces. Let's bring those in, right? So there's our coat and there's our head. Look at that head. I mean, I get the coat out of here. Come on, pick up on my head. Okay, you know what? Let's try this. Let's put old Grundy together and see if it will let us focus on the entire figure. So we've got everything on here. Let's do this in real time. Let's make sure I know my lefts from my rights. Just pop that right in. That went in very easily without much argument. That one, let's see if I can get it. That looks like, yep, I think we're in there. Man, he's already looking pretty tall. And oh, look at his little, look at his feet. Didn't mean to do that, but there we go. Okay. Again, lefts from rights. Let's pop that arm in there. Oh boy. Oh, you know what? I probably shouldn't do that before putting the coat on, right? Yep. Thank you. I'm sure you all were pointing that out. If anybody called me a goof, then I fully accept that. So let's pop this other one in there. Seems like one is easy, the other one not so much. Maybe I'm just getting too confident. Hubris is taking over on this. Boy, I do ramble a lot, don't I? All right, let's really see if we can get that in there. There we go. Got him in, and let's put this tiny little head on there. Okay, so this one is definitely a lesson and an obvious point of the giant proportions small head that McFarlane always gets a tough rap for. So I gotta stop bumping this camera. But at least our focus is working with us. So there we go. Let's start. Let's break this guy down. Look at this head. Look at it. I mean, it almost looks like straight on like Medusa, like the way that the hair is done, right? But I mean, it's not. They're not snakes, but it does look like, and it really gives a creepy, scary appearance. I've always been a fan of old Grundy. I don't know why. I guess just his simplicity, his anti-hero mentality. He's just a great dude. But the detail on his face, I mean, he does, there's a certain level of decay going on there, and also a certain level of menace. The yellow eyes, the gritted teeth, the snarl that he's got going on there. Well done. And then with the paint on the hair, to show a little bit of whiteness and grayness, right? To just kind of emphasize that death. And of course, we just stuck these on here, so we saw the joint that it has, right? So that's what we're dealing with. A little bit clunky, probably because I just had to put it together, and it wasn't established that way. But yeah, I mean, we do have good flexibility there. He may have this separation there, but it is not a rotation point. He has the single elbow, and he does have wrist mobility, so it will rotate around and wiggle. So we're good with that. Same thing on the other side, same mobility, same thing with wrist rotation and wiggle, as we could see before we put it together. And then the legs, that usual joint that we're dealing with. But it does want to pop right off. I guess that's the downside of some of these Build-A-Figures, right? They do go together and they look great, but as soon as you really start flexing them around, there's just something about it that it wants to come right back apart. But there we go, decent flexibility in it. What we'd expect from a giant figure, right? It's not going to be a superbly posing character, and if I'm honest, it does feel like it's ready to just fall apart at a joint. Hey, maybe I'm not sticking it on completely, just in the live moment, but it does feel like it wants to fall apart. So knee joint, single joint there. We do have a good joint here on the ankle. So we do have that, and we've got our toe articulation, so it does pop up for a little bit of posability. I am not confident in him having massive crouch capabilities or any kind of crazy action poses, but it's still very cool to have a giant Solomon Grundy figure, especially a cool one like this. And then again, back to this texture. The coat, the pants, the bottom, very well done. It looks very much like a kind of a worn out, rugged fabric, almost like a blue jean material that's really just been through it. The rope right there, maybe there could have been a little bit more detail just to kind of show some age or wear. Again, the little cavities of where the parts are sewn together, the green seeping through, that is an excellent little addition. And there's just like an occasional wash on here just to kind of give it a little bit of a grayish decay look, and all kinds of fun little details. Veins, scars, all kinds of stuff. And the chains, you can tell that they're rusted chains, but maybe a little bit, and it's great because there's like a copperish color, but then a darker, more flat copperish in there to kind of look like different levels of rust is what we'll say. But you know, maybe something in there like a little bit of a gray or a black to help separate them a little bit more. But what do I know, right? I'm not a designer. I do wish I was, but I don't have that skill. So all in all, the look, the design, great. Big fan. Happy to have a huge Solomon Grundy because I've always been a big fan of him. The posability, not great. I'm just go ahead and say that. It does feel like the joints are ready to just flop apart. I will play with them a little bit more and put a little bit more pressure, but great figure. Not too thrilled about its capability. He's definitely a pose and leave. Okay, so let's move on to some 360 views of everything that we just popped open. All right, just some final thoughts as we're looking at all these 360 views of this whole squad, the foursome that built good old Solomon Grundy. Overall, I believe excellent selection of figures. I mean, the style, the ability, the quality, everything overall is great. Good matches to the game. Big fan of the Batman. Big fan of the Catwoman, of course. The rest of them are fantastic. Grundy, what I'll say about it, built together as a mega figure. Once you make sure all the joints are clicked properly in place, he looks great. The textures are fantastic. Obviously, some of the paint apps that we mentioned could have some opportunity, but overall, just a great looking figure. Flexibility, not necessarily the best, but that's okay. Set him up in one nice, intimidating Grundy-like pose and just let him be part of your display, and that's all it needs to be, right? It doesn't really need to be anything more than that. But that about does it. Yeah, so thanks for checking us out and for joining on this collecting journey. Look for a new video each week, if not more. Be sure to subscribe and click that like button. It would really help us out and it would truly mean a lot to me. And no matter what, thank you as always for taking the time. We are all in this world of collecting together. Let's look out for each other. Thanks.